Singh, your podcast host, and I'd like to welcome you to the My Brand HQ podcast, all things personal branding for career acceleration. This podcast is for talented, ambitious career professionals like you who are wanting to be perceived as a thought leader, to be top of mind to those that matter, and to make an impact and stand out, be that in your team, your organization, or your industry, and to be inspired by other successful leaders. I will be interviewing high-achieving career professionals who have carved out a successful career in their field and are open to sharing their career journey, their challenges, their learnings and insights with you, someone who is looking to establish your personal brand and accelerate your career. Through my personal branding and coaching practice, I enable career professionals primarily in the technology industry to earn more money, to increase their salary. In fact, I spoke to all of my past clients that I've worked with over the several years and learned that actually overall, they've received an average of 47% increase in their package. Would that be a great place to be? They've also all achieved at least one, if not more, promotions or moved on to a higher level in their career at another organization. And they're looking to advance their career while showing up as the best version of themselves. If this sounds like you, then do reach out to me and let's have a chat. And why do I do this? Well, during my corporate career spanning 25 years, I quickly realized that hard work alone was not enough to get me to where I wanted to be and the success that I strive for. And my belief is that hard work, coupled with creating and establishing a strong personal brand, can both influence and accelerate your career and get you to where you want to be. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Tony Glasby. In March 2021, Tony joined PPRO GmbH as Senior Vice President for Banking and Payments Strategy. PPRO GmbH is a privately held fintech company headquartered in Germany with an ambition to be a leading global infrastructure provider for cross-border payments. Leveraging on his 35-plus year corporate career and extensive finance and regulatory expertise, he will assist this highly talented team to realize its potential in a very fast-evolving industry. Previously, after joining eBay in 2010 as VP and Group Treasurer, Tony supported the separation of eBay Inc. and PayPal Inc. in 2015, where he led the capital structure and treasury work streams. After choosing to continue his role at PayPal, he was responsible for their worldwide treasury functions, which include capital markets, cash management, regulatory compliance support, financial strategy, foreign exchange, investments, insurance, and capital allocation. Earlier in his career, he held various senior finance and business roles at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Services, Electronic Data Systems, and Reed International plc. He has worked in London, Dallas, Silicon Valley, and Singapore. Tony is a fellow of the Associate of Corporate Treasurers, a chartered management accountant, and has earned a BA Honours in Business from the University of Westminster in London. Tony and his wife, Julie, live in Texas and their daughter, Lauren, in Brooklyn. And in his spare time, he enjoys wine collecting, football, watching rugby, and golf. In today's episode, Tony discusses several themes, beginning with sharing his perspectives, learnings, and challenges during his 35-year accomplished career. He speaks on career management and his early realization that I own my own career. He talks on compensation and focusing on the value of the role to both you and the company and less on the pay. Tony talks about being adaptable to change when it comes to company culture, big versus small organizations, and remote versus office working. And he also shares that learning is a constant. It's important and essential to keep up with the pace of change. So let's head over and hear what Tony has to say. Tony, hi there, and welcome to My Brand HQ. It's great to have you here today. How are you doing? I know you're in London at the moment, right?
I'm in London at the moment, and no jet lag. touch wood. So happy to be back always happy to be back in London. It's hometown for me, but as you know, I live in Texas at the moment, and I'm trying to persuade my wife to finish the journey that we started in California. We got to Texas, and I want to land up in London. So yeah, it's good. It's all good.
Fantastic, fantastic. So today, what I'd like to do, I mean, you have an accomplished career over 35 years. You know, it's phenomenal what you've achieved. So I think what would be really helpful for our audience is to just really hear about your learnings, your challenges, what's changed, what's evolved over that time that people can hear and learn from. So let's start with career management. Tell me, what's the impact been for you in terms of how that has evolved over the years when it comes to managing your career?
I think the just to touch on, you used the word learning over 35 years. Hopefully the amount that I'm learning hasn't stopped, just because I've been it's something you have to actively do all the time, is to just improve yourself, improve your knowledge, and learn more and more and more and more as the world gets more global, more complicated. You have to keep up with that pace of change yourself and in your own learning. So learning is a constant. So I just wanted to touch on that. Now, back in career management, I think when you come out of the schooling system, a lot of things are handed to you, and you just follow a path that's and you're guided down that path, and even at university. But then you suddenly get into the wide old world, and you think that some of that is going to continue. And I think the biggest realization I had anyway was I own my own career, and I'm not going to wait for someone to come and own it for me, to tell me what to do, how to do it. And I think it's very, very important that you realize that early in your career, that you own it. People could advise you, mentor you, guide you, but you really do own it, and you should invest in it and invest time in it. I wish I'd have perhaps started a little sooner in that realization, but I own my career, and I love what I do. I've loved what I've done, and I'm still enjoying work. So I guess at one level, it's kind of worked out, because I'm very very satisfied with, and I just had fun. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. If you can combine work and enjoyment together, those two things fit very well. But it starts with owning it.
So tell me then, when you talk about owning it, what does that actually look like? What does that mean for somebody? What actions do they need to take that a lot of people perhaps don't do at the moment?
Yeah, I think one, I think is just a mindset realization. And then I would say there's an awful lot of assistance that, if you live in, live abroad, you probably need to manage your career a little differently than if you work and live at home. So I think there's a home base overseas component to career management. Obviously, I think if you're overseas, you become more sensitized to it, because the skills and the function that may have taken you overseas in the beginning may over time become redundant, and suddenly, if you're going to stay relevant and grow your career, you may have to add further disciplines to your to your portfolio. But I remember early on being in many discussions with HR teams, and they would roll out all this, pre-canned, pre-packaged stuff around career. I would embrace that. Perhaps if I could do it again, I would embrace that a little more, because investment, skills development, learning, whether it's technical skills, personal skills, I would always make sure that your skills are evolving, so that your lens from a career perspective is as broad and as wide as it could possibly be. And the other thing I would do on career management, in addition to this kind of constant evolution of skills, is take some risk. Take some risk. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. People usually sink or swim on the risk-taking front, and I haven't seen that many people who have not managed to survive a big career shift and a big job function change. And so take some risk, be risk-seeking. Now, the older you get, I understand you have a family and you have financial responsibilities. That risk appetite may change over time, but make sure early on you view that as there's stuff you can manage and nurture, but at the same time nurture that risk appetite too, because leaving the UK, going to the States was a big risk with a young family. And I've never looked back, and I've absolutely loved it.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And a great point there is about taking that risk. Something that I talk about a lot is, if you don't try something new or different, you don't realize what you're actually capable of. And it's something I did through my career, where I started and where I ended up. It is not at all what I expected. And had you asked me, 25 years earlier, would you have ended up working in corporate finance? Would you have worked in sales? Absolutely not. So to your point, I think very few people don't make it when they take the risk, because there's always that support that you can find around you to help you. And as you said, it's also owning your career and doing what you can to manage it. I think that's a really important point you've made there. And you mentioned as well about enjoyment and enjoying it. So a lot of people struggle with finding what's the right role for them or something they really enjoy, and they feel sometimes that work is just a means to an end because they don't know what is their passion or what they enjoy. So they're just doing something, and then they to your point, fearful of taking a risk to try something else that they may enjoy. So what could you share about that in terms of, like, you've loved what you're doing? How did you figure that out, or what steps did you take?
It all started for me back in the UK. I was part of a multinational corporation, and on their graduate training program. So they funded your accounting profession, and you would join their scheme. And as part of the scheme, they would rotate you around different groups. And so it was really international. They had 10 operating units. And, I worked in a paper mill for 6 months. I worked in a plastics factory for a time. I worked in the consolidations department in the finance team. I worked in the treasury team. And so I was just afforded the opportunity as part of the training program to work in different environments. And by far the one I liked the most was the treasury environment. I just loved that interface, right, between the financial markets and large corporations. I loved the volatility, the uncertainty of how markets would react to news. And so every day was different because the news flow was different, and FX rates would move differently. Obviously, interest rates not so volatile. And so I just liked that interface about how every day was so very, very different. And then I got off the training program and then worked into they managed their pension plan in-house. And so then I I applied for the full-time position in the pensions department, and it was the pensions investment team. And listening to the equity team, the fixed income team, I was on the cash side. But that was just an environment that I just took to right out of the Reed International's graduate training program, and I've loved it ever since. And I think I like the challenge of applying some of your treasury skills, financial knowledge, and how you can add value to a large corporate. A large corporate has significant exposures, and doing nothing is in of itself a risk. So you have to have a position, you have to have a strategy, and touch wood, we've definitely, if I look back, really added, significant shareholder value with some of the decisions that we've taken, and I was allowed to take over time, added significant value to the bottom line of the company, which is very rewarding, and worked with some fantastic people. I mean, I just think that internally and externally, if you look to optimize, a role of a treasury function, pre-tax, post-tax, I've met some fantastically, wickedly smart people, and you just sit there and listen in awe and learn and learn and learn and learn. And that's the fun I've had, because the value is tangible. You're a decision maker in finance. People have often said to me, why didn't you ever want to become a CFO? And I said, well, two things. One, CFOs tend to look backwards a lot, because you're reporting something to investors that has happened. And the second thing is, a lot of finance functions are reporting other people's decisions. Being in treasury, you are the decision maker, and it's nice to. And so I just loved from the get-go. I just loved that function, and has been given over a few companies that I've worked for, EDS, eBay, and PayPal, incredible latitude, and seen the results. And it's just really, really enjoyed it.
Great to hear it. And what I wanted to bring that round to now is motivation. So the topic of motivation, and I think from what you've already shared, it's evident that it's the ability or the opportunity to create change, to take risks, to be learning, growing all of the time for you. So what else is it for you that motivates you?
Well, I think one of the things I had to adapt is, one, I'm an only child, so it's always been about me in the family, and then obviously you come out of the education system, and it's about you, it's about your results. And when you first go into a career, you take some of that forward with you, and then you learn, actually, it's not about you at all. It's about the influence you have on others, and it's about the leverage you can create across a team. It's about that motivational leverage, because a team can, if you get a high-performing team, they will do and outperform any one individual. And so you learn over time. It's about the group. It's about the team. It's about and the challenge for me was, I tended to always have a belief that I kind of knew the answer ahead of time, but it's allowing that team room, if you like, to figure it out themselves, and encourage them. And this is where it's really, really hard in terms of motivation, is encourage risk taking, because most people don't like to be told they made a mistake.
Yeah.
And this is where I would say my shift to Silicon Valley was critical, because prior to that, every decision I kind of made and was part of, and a team was working on, you wanted the individual decision to be optimal. You go to Silicon Valley, and the whole attitude and what motivates the innovation there is, not every decision, not every investment, not every project has to pay off. That was my legacy. In Silicon Valley, I just need 1 in 5 of these to work, 1 in 8. because if it pays off, it's going to be so big, it'll pay for all those that didn't. And so the whole attitude, I think, to innovation and therefore motivation and therefore dealing with failure, or failure is a strong word, but attempts to innovate that didn't pay off as was envisaged, and motivating people to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. That was a key part of Silicon Valley. And I really find that fascinating. That was a big move to go and work for eBay and just learn how the culture of and the innovation of these companies that are wildly successful out on the west coast of California, and up the west coast, if you throw in Amazon there, of course, up in Seattle. Yeah, you have to be motivated to constantly try and be changing the world, and that involves one aspect, of course, is how you personally react to risk and take risks and react to things that don't go well.
Yeah.
Can't let it get you down. Go again.
Yeah, most definitely. And again, something I talk about often is the experience we have is based on how we respond to any situation. So something doesn't work out, revisit it, look at what didn't work, why it didn't work, what you could do differently, rather than, okay, I failed and give up. It's what we do with that. As you said, failure is a strong word, but to me, failure is always a learning. There's always something to take away from it.
And you'll learn more. You will learn more when something goes not quite to plan than when it is perfectly executed. You will learn more, and you will become a better person. I think if you, as you say, if you tackle that positively with a lot of energy, how you get up, how you address it, what did I learn, what can I do better, how did the team perform, what could I done better with the team perspective. Yeah, you learn, everyone learns. It's a huge benefit, actually. Now you got to you have to categorize risk and sub-performance, but it is absolutely a critical evolutionary part of the evolution of being better leaders, motivating teams more by allowing that elasticity of performance and more rewarding careers.
Yeah, completely. And an interesting point there about allowing and enabling teams to innovate, to make mistakes, to take the risks. What would you say when it comes to trust, particularly now with a shift towards, over the last couple of years with the pandemic and remote working, there are still people and managers who feel maybe there's a lack of trust in the team, and can they enable them because they can't see them to do what they need to do? What can you share about that from your learnings?
Very, very, very interesting point. And I think early on, what we did in the pandemic was just literally survive the first few days, weeks, months. It was literally keep the lights on, okay, we got through that. Yeah, nothing broke. And then you learn from the outside that it's actually going to perhaps take longer than we thought. And then, those goalposts kept changing and changing and changing. And here we are, we're still not back. And, some parts of Europe are going into sort of semi-lockdown again. And so, I mean, goodness me, it's gone on way longer than the original forecasts. So yeah, there are obviously different stages here, and you go from keeping the lights on, are our customers happy, are our stakeholders happy, yes, to, okay, so what's the long-term impact on our business? Great, neutral to it's really hurting us if you're in the hospitality and travel business, for example. And then your strategies would then, start to adapt depending on if it was full, pedal to the metal, because it was actually a catalyst for your business to hitting those brakes hard if you're in the travel business. And so then your business strategy started to evolve from the original keeping the lights going. And to your point, then you kind of get into a more mature stage of this, which is, okay, once you've determined how this impacts your business strategy, now this becomes more normalized, and now you get into the sort of the people impact of this. And so mental health came to the forefront. There are obviously a lot of people who are somewhat agnostic about whether they work from home or work in an office. And then there are some people who in the community who really, really, really struggle to work from home. And so you need to make sure that you got support systems for those folks who are really struggle with that. Now back to your question, there's no doubt that trust, human trust, personal interaction is a huge component of allowing individuals and teams to take risk. And that's why I think when people think of some of the impacts of the pandemic, personal relationships clearly are impacted, which does impact trust. And I think that impacts the speed in which decisions get made, and it does impact creativity. I do think there's an impact there because you haven't been able to develop those personal relationships.
And so what would you say where you've got, let's say, managers who are struggling to motivate their team, and with everything that has happened and has evolved, what is it that what advice would you give to them in terms of how they can empower them, trust them, but keep them motivated at the same time, particularly, as you said, where the people are impacted more by having to work remotely and maybe now feeling incredibly demotivated, struggling with mental health challenges, that kind of thing?
I mean, obviously, a lot of you can see there's a lot of different corporate rules and attitudes to working in an office. I can just say that I've been now to the London office of the company I'm working for now 3 times, and it gets better every time. So if there's something holding you back from going to the office and meeting new colleagues for the first time, and your company allows you to go to the office, go for a coffee, meet your new team. Do that as often as you feel comfortable with. And if you can't go to an office, meet outside the office, meet in a coffee house, whatever. But try to then build those relationships informally and personally but stay inside, obviously, the boundaries that are created by the various HR teams. So, but meet people, and then if you can't meet people personally, set up time with them informally and have no agenda. Just drink coffee, cup of tea, have a drink, but just get to know them and try to build that trust online. It does work. And I think it's more about that recognition that you're there to help, you're there to mentor, you're there to encourage, support, be positive. You're not there to criticize and point out mistakes every 2 seconds, every 5 minutes, because that's very demotivating in this time. But I think there are things you can do. It's more attitude about encouragement through these hopefully final stages, so we can get back to some normality. And I don't know what normal is. One thing I have observed being back in London is that to commute 7.7 miles still takes an hour and change. And what an absolute waste of time. So I think where we'll head up, is just maybe a hybrid where you'll enjoy your new colleagues, you'll build those relationships that will help motivate and encourage the teams to move on, and do it in a way that's efficient use of your time. But one thing I will say, the pace of change is so extreme that you don't want to stay too inward looking in how you organize yourself, your team, how you build those networks and relationships inside your company and obviously outside your company. Make sure you keep an eye on what's happening, because incredible change still, with technology, with globalization, with their shifts in globalization. Always keep a good balance of inputs as to how you engage with your staff, and don't become too internally focused, I think, is another piece of advice I would give. Stay real close to what's happening on the outside.
Yeah, great advice there. Great advice. And tell me, you mentioned as well, obviously you've worked in the UK, you've worked in the US, you've worked for global corporates, multinationals. So how have you adapted to change in terms of cultural change? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I went to boarding school that was pretty hierarchical. A lot of it was located near Sandhurst, and a lot of folks went from public school, landed up at Sandhurst. And so when I went to EDS, you had Ross Perot, ex-Navy, IBM, almost a dress code, starch, suits, as Ross Perot founded EDS, and very much ran the company along hierarchical and militaristic style, which coming culturally, yep, okay, that makes sense to me. I can fit in here. And Silicon Valley, oh my goodness, totally different. And so going from that perhaps rigid structure to something way more open was you needed to adapt to that very quickly indeed. And the network, in order to get things done, I think in Silicon Valley, you need to build an internal network of key stakeholders to help you make decisions quicker. It's not just, you don't get to make a decision because you're your label, your title. No, it's the consensus now that matters rather than the instruction. And you needed to adapt to that. Much more, as I said, much more open systems. And this concept of feedback, feedback in the old world that I came from was something that happened once a year in your performance review. If you're in a much more open culture, feedback is encouraged every day, and that was something I really struggled with at the beginning. Because I wasn't soliciting feedback, I had a job to do. But part of the culture of the West Coast, and you see it all the time now, it's pervasive in society. You go and get a coffee from Starbucks, and immediately you have to, what was your experience like? Please give me feedback. You go to customs and go through the security lines, and as you leave, please give me feedback. It's gone from, and the motive is very good. And one of the things I had to adapt to and learn about, that feedback wasn't a threat. Actually, feedback is a privilege. And back to this concept of constant learning that we spoke about earlier, that's how you should view it, and that's what it is, and you should encourage it. That this constant feedback, which open systems tend to provide that naturally, because it's the team consensus that's going to get you there, and that's the culture of a lot of businesses these days. And that was something I really had to sort of adapt to and absorb. And you can see why I was late to appreciate it, but I'm very glad I did. And in another way, how does it manifest itself? Well, a lot of it, in an M&A environment, culture, if you have two groups who on paper look like they should work well together from a business, technology, strategy, market opportunity, addressable market, yeah. So let's, go acquire that business. But then the review of cultural fit doesn't take up as nearly as much space on the page, I think, as it should, because you might, I would say few acquisitions have really been successful that I've been part of. I've been sold, I've been bought. Fortunately, I've participated in more purchases than I was involved in being sold. But cultural fit is the human side of this. Will they work well together? Very difficult to measure, but when it doesn't work, you've just spent an enormous premium to buy a company, and the teams really don't get on well together, and needs, to my humble opinion, needs a lot more time before the final decision is made as to whether these companies can work together.
And tell me, how has that sort of been extrapolated out from a point of view of big companies that you've worked for versus, let's say, where you are now?
Yeah, I think there are pros and cons of both, and I wouldn't recommend one over the other. I just think it's, I just think it's interesting. When I was at EDS, it was peak around 130,000 people, employees. Then I went into the tens of thousands, and now I'm in the hundreds. And you've just got to, again, you've just got to be agile. But one thing's for sure, when you're in the hundreds, if you want something done, you do it yourself. When you're in the 130,000, there's departments to do it for you. But the difference is you get the output you get. If you do it yourself, you have a little bit more influence as to what goes on. But it's really good, and I'm really enjoying it, particularly being at a smaller company, towards the autumn years of my career, because I just got a lot of experience that I think can be helpful. And what I like is, in a smaller company, I'm not pigeonholed so much. The larger the company, here's your boundaries, and if you step outside, there's people who remind you you've just stepped outside. You're not actually responsible for that, which is fine. But smaller companies, particularly high growth smaller companies, they need help, and given a lot of latitude to get involved in a number of things, which is very rewarding. And again, back to the fun thing again, they just want problems solved. And if you have experience, you can see something and, yep, we agree, that's not right. Yep, okay, go fix it. And so, no, I like it a lot. But do it all. Don't believe that bigger is always better. You can have fun at small places too.
Yeah, most definitely. And then tell me a little bit about when it comes to compensation. So whether that's been for yourself and asking for pay rises, negotiating around that, and also how, from a leadership point of view, what you've observed when it comes to your teams and compensation.
It's an interesting one. I've never asked for a raise ever. not once. I think in terms of, I think compensation in terms of, if you step back, look at your career and how to manage your career, I think a lot of people fall into the trap of overly measuring their career and their readiness for the next level by focusing on over-indexing on compensation. I really do. I think there are these, some other areas like networking, undervalued, underinvested, compensation probably too much on the top of people's minds. I get it. I understand why it is that way, but I think I would just say, I learned later on, perhaps you should be a little bit more balanced as you build your brand, build your reputation, build your readiness for the next position, wherever it may come from. I think people get overly focused on their worth and their value, because at the end of the day, it's around what the position is worth to the company, not what you think you may be worth, right? And I think positions have value. A general counsel has value. An engineer has value, and it doesn't really matter what your track record is or academic record is or what your successes have been in your career. If you've applied for a position that only has a certain value to that company, then there's not going to be a good fit there. And I think it's, so I think positions are important, understanding the value to the company of those positions. And I would just say, be flexible. There's nothing in the world that says I have to earn more money next year than I did last year. That's not written anywhere. It's most people have that belief, but sometimes a lateral move is exactly what makes sense for your career. But some people may overlook it because, I'm paid 90% of what I earned last year, and I've got it in me, I have to earn more every year. No, I would absolutely disagree with that. I would think longer term, think through the cycles, and not get so fixated on compensation. I'd think more about career management and how a lateral move at less money may make me more employable and attractable to those better paying positions.
Thank you for sharing that. That is I can't even put words to that, but for me, what you've just shared there is so fundamental and so important for people to recognize, because to your point, a lot of people measure their career success by their compensation, when actually, as you said, whether it's your networking, your experience, exposure, and so forth, is probably what's going to get you that value as you progress. A case in point is myself. When I left accountancy, I took a 50% pay cut to go into recruitment, but that couple of years in recruitment has got me where I am today, because for a number of reasons, and particularly with my confidence, because it took me so far out of my comfort zone to go from someone who was shy and didn't have that confidence in myself to go and have to work in recruitment. But then working it and learning and having to do what I did gave me that confidence to get to where I now am and through my career. And had I not done that, I probably wouldn't have progressed the way that I did. Mm-hmm. So it was never about the money. I was always looking for what can I do to just expand on my experience, and then that naturally got me the progression that I wanted. Mm-hmm. So absolutely fundamental, and thank you for sharing that, because I think that needs to be heard. That's really, really crucial for people to realize. And also recognizing from a motivational point of view is that it's for individuals to understand what they're motivated by. Is it purely about the money, or is it, as you said earlier, the satisfaction and the experience and the learning, which will naturally get you to where you want to be?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. There's the fun component as well. really. And no, I totally agree, Lita, what you said. And I think it's, as I said, people over-index on compensation and under-invest in these other critical areas of managing your career and your teams. They're critical. And you know, and back to networking, you know, I've had 5 jobs in my life. I only ever applied for one of them, which was the first one, Reed International. Every other position I've had, and I didn't realize this at the time, but I do now, was the network that offered me positions that, so yeah, if you have a good network, manage your career well, the positions will find you rather than you have to, you know, get out there and look for these opportunities to grow your career and have more fun at work. Yeah, I've only ever applied for one job.
That's incredible. That's incredible. It shows the power of networking as well, and your reputation. And something I share often is around your personal brand is your professional reputation, and it's about managing that. So being aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it, but also building out your network ahead of that point at which you now need to get a job. And I've had a number of clients where they've either been made redundant or they now want to enter the job market, and they've not really, nurtured, let's say, their network. They've not all built it or put any importance on it. And then it becomes uncomfortable for them to want to reach out to someone to ask for help. And people want to help.
Yeah.
But there's an aspect of that where if you're coming at it from, I'm only speaking to you now because I need a job, it doesn't necessarily land well on both sides. And I think that's where the importance of understanding networking and its criticality as part of your career journey is essential. And I've been in environments. An example is when I was at HP, I was on a leadership training, and one of the modules was networking. And the minute the trainer put that slide up and said, right, now we're going to look at networking, everyone in the room just groaned. And I actually just spoke up and I said, what is it about that word that people want to shy away from or move away from? Because it's just having a conversation. And for me, to your examples, that one conversation can change your life. It can create a new opportunity. You just do not know where it could take you. So I think it's almost the meaning that we put on the word networking. What does that really mean? And for me, it's just speaking to people.
And don't starve yourself of an opportunity. What I'm with seeing how your network evolves, because one of the most enjoyable things and aspects of a career is when you see others that you've worked with do really, really well for themselves, and you see them grow and you see them nurture, you see them become running their own businesses, you see them get promoted, you see them get recognized. If you don't keep up with your network, you don't see that people that you've worked with are doing well. And it's really, really satisfying and rewarding to see that and experience that with them. So don't starve yourself of that opportunity. So keep that network growing and active, because it's really, really enjoyable to see other people doing well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with that, which is why I love to do what I'm doing now. So just to finish up, when it comes to leadership, you've had a number of leadership roles now. So what would you say has surprised you in those roles, and what has been your biggest challenge, let's say?
Yeah, I think I think the thing that surprised me was that I felt I could conquer everything on my own. It's like, beat my chest, let's go. No, it's not. As I said earlier, it's really not about me. It's no point saying charge. You look behind you and there's no one there. That's not how. That's how I thought it would work. No. So it's that. It's that making a difference, changing the world, solving problems, going around obstacles, not getting downbeat and downtrodden, staying positive, and at the same time bringing the team with you. That is absolutely critical. And there's one leader I've worked with, I was once on a dog sledding, and we were in a dog, and I was there with my wife. We were in Colorado, and fascinating talking to the person who came with us, and we were talking about the role of every dog. There's a purpose for every dog on a dog sled. They're chosen intentionally. And so I said, well, which one's the leader? And he pointed out to the smallest one. What? She said, yeah, we knew at 6 months that she would lead a dog train. And I said, well, what does that mean to be a leader of the, dog sledding? Oh, he said, it's very simple. If she decides to turn right and go over the edge, the other 9 will follow suit automatically, without question. They will follow, because she's built the trust with the rest of the team. And I thought, there's one individual that I worked for in my career who, if he said, we have to go right over the cliff, I would say, fine. Okay, I wouldn't even question it. I would trust it. I would believe it, because if that leader has made that decision, it must be right. And I have that much confidence and trust in that individual, that person, that I would just blindly follow. It may sound stupid, but to me, that's what leadership is. You follow great leaders into places which on the surface look like they're dangerous places to go. Get there, you go, oh yeah, now I know. Now I know why you did that. And it makes total sense, and that's why you're the leader.
Yeah. A great way to finish, Tony. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, no, pleasure's all mine, trust me. Great to see you, smiling.
Always, Tony. Thank you.
Take care, be good.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do subscribe to the show so you don't miss any future episodes. And remember to leave a review telling us about your key learnings and what you enjoyed the most. And do share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can spread the word on the importance of personal branding when it comes to your career advancement, and also ensure that others can benefit from these invaluable insights from many inspirational leaders. I will be eternally grateful. And if you are looking to earn more money, to get promoted, to secure your next role and advance your career, and would like me to support you personally on that journey to get you there, then reach out to me and let's arrange a chat. Alternatively, why don't you check out my personal branding launchpad, a group training and mentoring program. Finally, if you'd like to connect with me directly, then do reach out and direct message me on LinkedIn. You can find the link as well as any other resources mentioned in the show notes. I'll see you next time.